Recruitment Lunch. I have one of my favorite guests, Mark Williams, on again, and he'll be talking about some new features and maybe some that's just hot off the press. I'll let Mark do that, not spoil his thunder. And let us know in the comments if there's anything in particular also you want to know, and any questions for Mark, as well as let us know what you're having for lunch. I know it's an hour earlier today than normal. I messed up a little bit there, but hopefully that's okay. And and Mark, I've just put up your LinkedIn form, the podcast as well, in the comments, so people can follow your podcast there.
Thank you. Yeah.
So
I guess the question is, why is everybody inside on a day like this? we're denying people their sunbathing time. Although, of course, you could be sat outside, I suppose. I remember a post that did really well on LinkedIn last year. Some guy just he had literally a cardboard box, and he cut off one side and just put it over his laptop and was sitting out in the garden and just showed it as his way of working in the garden. And it went completely viral. Obviously, everybody thought it was an amazing idea. It was a good summer last summer, wasn't it? So
yeah. Well, we're going to have one warm day today, and then it's back to the cold starting tomorrow.
Yeah. I know. Well, I live in Chester, and yesterday was absolutely cracking the flags, and it's nice again today. But yeah, as from tomorrow, it goes cold again.
I'm near Milton Keynes, and it was 24 here. So.
Oh wow! Oh yeah, it was better. About 22 here. So.
Cats outside listening. Got it right.
So yeah. We were chatting the other day about what we were going to talk about today, and I was going through a list of things that have happened since the last time I was on here, and hopefully we'll get time to talk about some of those. But I said, but there's been nothing really recently, and then literally yesterday afternoon, LinkedIn came out with a big announcement about something called a creator mode. And I'm always a little bit cynical when if anybody listens to the podcast, they'll recognize that I can be a bit cynical about when LinkedIn change things or make announcements like this. And I'm sure some of you will be able to relate to this. They'll come out with something and, a big procession of this is going to be amazing and da-da-da. And they actually look at it and you go, that's nothing. That doesn't really change anything. Or I know what you're trying to do here. You're just trying to, promote some feature that nobody really wants anyway, etc. But I think this is a bit better than that. Although I was a bit cynical when I first heard about it. So creator mode. You first off, it's a rollout, like a lot of things on LinkedIn. So you might not have it to start with. There's also some degree of confusion because there's a link. Actually, I'll put the link in the show in the chat. Just bear with me a second because I'll just copy that. And because you can apply to have your profile changed, and the link that I've just put in is all you need to do is click on that and just say that you want to do it. There's a link within that article. In fact, I think there's a button right at the top of it, if I remember rightly. And then it asks you to add 5 hashtags, up to 5 hashtags, minimum of 1, which are the subjects that you're most likely to write about or produce content about. And then nothing happens. So we're not quite sure what that means. Does that mean if you've got the option to click on that button that it is rolled out to you, but that it's just not active yet? Or are they letting everybody click on that button, but only the ones that it's rolled out to, it will show on their profile? Well, I don't know anybody, and I've talked to a lot of people both yesterday afternoon and this morning about this, and I don't know anybody that you can see it on their profile. In fact, actually, the guy whose profile they demonstrated it on when they announced it, if you go to his profile, it's not shown on his profile either. So I got a feeling they haven't flicked the switch on button yet as such, but for anybody, so we'll see. But what it basically is so you create, you say these are the hashtags that I'm going to write about, and what they do is they put those hashtags right at the top of your profile by your name or just underneath your name, by your headline, and it will say something like Mark writes about hashtag this, hashtag that, hashtag that. Now, the cynical side of me, when I first saw that. Was like, right, so hashtags are a complete flop on LinkedIn. Let's be honest, right? They make very little difference to the quality of a post in terms of, you know, your readership of that post. And so they're trying to come up with a way of making them more prevalent, more relevant, more likely that people are going to use them, perhaps. And so does it really benefit us? I suppose it kind of does in the round if people actually start using hashtags, and start hashtag searching and following hashtags. But people typically don't follow hashtags, and maybe it will be helpful for that. So I was a bit cynical to start with. I thought, well, is this really going to make a difference? But there are other features to creator mode that are quite interesting. And this is all part of a project that LinkedIn have implemented this year to support creators more. No surprise, really. Creators are what keep people, content is what keeps people on the site. So, and obviously people on the site allows them to sell more ads, right? So it's pretty important. And, you know, recruitment did take a hit last year for them. And recruitment has always been their biggest revenue earner. And I think that scared them a bit. And for the first time ever, they made redundancies. And I think they realized that they're going to need to push advertising more, unfortunately. But obviously to do that, to get people to want to spend money on advertising, they need to show better session times, longer session times. And the people that
targeted audience, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the people that make the biggest difference to session times are you and I, you know, the normal LinkedIn user that's putting out content that people actually want to interact with. So they've got this thing that they want to support creators. And there's been some rumors, and they are rumors because LinkedIn have definitely not commented on this. And I actually think the people that are rumoring this are actually putting 2 and 2 together and making 10, frankly. I see no evidence behind this, unless someone's got, you know, an inside contact that's told them something different. But I've heard that before, and it rarely is true. But what they're saying is, the rumor is that LinkedIn are going to start supporting creators by allowing them to monetize their content in some way. So I'm not quite sure what that will look like, if it's true. But what is true is that part of this is that they are brought out this new creator mode. So yes, hashtags will show at the top of your profile, the 5 hashtags or up to 5 hashtags that you say you're interested in writing about, but also the activity panel. So you know how you scroll down to someone's activity and you click on all activity, and then it takes you to a section that's got all activity, articles, posts, and documents, I think. And typically most of us, or certainly me, I click on it and then I automatically just go to posts. And anybody's profiles that I bookmark, I always bookmark that page, their post page, because that's the one I'm most interested in. Well, this is going to kind of bypass the need to do that. So there's going to be higher in the profile. I've not seen an example yet, but it's going to be higher in the profile, and it's going to be defaulted to your posts, right? So you won't see all activity. Now, whether you can then click on it, I think you probably will be able to. But when you go to someone that is a creator, as in they have enabled creator mode, you will automatically at the top of their profile be able to go straight to their content, right, very quickly and easily. And that I think is a really good thing. And it's going to be more prominent as well as featured. So, you know, the featured section on your profile where you can feature posts and articles as well as other things. Yeah, that's going to come higher as well. And that's going to be all part of this section that's right towards the top of your profile, above the fold. I assume it's above the fold. So that's good. And what else have they said? Let me just double check my notes, because so this is all new to me as well. Oh yeah, they're going to display the number of followers that you have in your profile intro. So again, I'm assuming that's going to be right at the very top next to your headline, which is a good thing, other than we'll see what it looks like, but I suspect it's just going to be your number of followers. Whereas I'm a great believer that if the point of that is that when I go to someone's profile, I can see how many people are following them, which would be a sign of their influence. And if lots of people are following someone, then presumably they're putting out good content. That's how I'd read the purpose of that, right? Because the problem with LinkedIn is that you can get 30,000 followers without anybody choosing to follow you at all, right? Because you can just connect to 30,000 people. Well, not just, it takes time, but you can. So they're like forced followers. So that's not actually an indication that your content's good, right? Someone who has 30,000 followers doesn't mean anything, right? Those people could be completely ignoring their content. So they really should differentiate between the two.
So you're saying right now that, let's say I've got 10,000 connections. That means I automatically have 10,000 followers?
Yeah.
Oh,
so connection
okay.
is a follower by default.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, people can choose to follow you on top of that.
Yeah.
And also people can choose to unfollow you by having been connected to you as well, of course.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, your average user on LinkedIn, their connection number and their follower number are one of the same or very, very close to each other. So I think what they should show is the number of people that have chosen to follow you as opposed to connected with you. But I don't think they will. It remains to be seen, but I don't think they will. But another feature of creator mode is that if you want to enable creator mode, is that you have to automatically, it will change your primary button from connect to follow. Which, just thinking that one through from a recruiter's perspective, and recruiters are the one user on LinkedIn that has, unless they're using a recruiter account, has a strong justification for building a large network because it gives them greater visibility in their search results, right? Whereas for the rest of us who aren't recruiters, really what we want to do is grow followers. I don't really care so much about whether I'm connected to someone. I care that they follow me. I'm not necessarily interested in their content. They might be interested in mine. Right? That's no insult to them. That's just whatever you're interested in, right? You're either interested or you're not. And so it may be a bit of a dilemma that for recruiters, because you might be like, well, I want to grow a network. I don't really want my primary button to be follow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do want to be a creator. I do want all the other benefits that come with it. It might be quite smart of LinkedIn to do that, because I think what they're trying to do is say, look, if you're in this for content and you're putting out content, then really what you want is people to follow you. You don't really want them to connect with you. And for the vast majority of people, that is absolutely true. But perhaps not so much for recruiters. So I think that's an angle on that, if you like.
And I guess for businesses, maybe for your, let's say, corporate LinkedIn page, maybe then you can become a creator, and maybe that way it could become a bit more useful than, because company pages I find generally are,
There's no suggestion that this has any connection with company pages, though.
Okay.
Not at all. Maybe at some later stage, possibly, but this is more about individual profiles. Certainly, I've not heard any angle of it that suggests it's anything to do with company pages. Now, maybe in the future, that might be an interesting angle. So if you have an employee who is a creator, there may be a way of featuring that person on your company page.
Yeah.
That isn't the case now, but I guess that could be. That might be a direction that they go in with that, possibly. So that's essentially what it is, creator mode. There are a few other changes that they've announced that I really haven't had much of a chance to get my head around, but not many people are talking about them, but they are interesting potentially. And there again, there's an article here that I will post into the chat, because then people can kind of make their own mind up about how interesting or relevant it is. But this is on their blog. Now this also includes creator mode. Okay, so they talk about that as well. But it also includes this orange, what they're calling the Harry Potter effect. I don't know where they get that from. But basically, it allows people to have a video cover story in their profile.
Okay.
And what they're saying is it allows you to personalize your hello. Now, the examples that they show are mobile. So maybe it's a mobile only feature. Could be used for job seekers, sort of almost like a video CV type thing. And also for anybody else. like freelancers and stuff like that, promoting what they do. This one, I definitely don't have it, and I've not seen any examples of it other than what you see in that article that I've just posted. But yeah, I mean that's another. It looks to me like it's going to be another coloured ring, like the purple we're
open to
hiring,
work and
and the green one. So it looks like it's going to be an orange version of that, and you can tap on it, and then there's a video behind it. That's how I interpret it, but you'd have to read the article yourselves and see. It's, as often is the case with LinkedIn, it's never that easy. There's a little video there that shows examples of it, but you don't really know how these things work until you actually see it on LinkedIn and try it for yourself. Unfortunately, the examples that they use are often not real people. I mean, they are real people in the sense that they're obviously actors or something, but if you looked up the name of the person, you won't find their profile normally.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what I've seen is, for the intro, I've seen people use that, where you can record your name, and they've done a short intro. What they do. So this is kind of taking it to the next level in video.
To the next level, yeah. And it may be just mobile. But they often do demonstrate things on mobile as opposed to desktop when it is on desktop as well. So again, they don't say that. They don't make that very, very clear at all. Again, if you read it, it's literally a video and a couple of lines. It just doesn't give you enough flesh on the bones really to really understand it. But I love the sound of it. I mean, actually, to be honest, when I first saw this article yesterday evening, that's the one that grabbed my attention, whereas everybody's talking about the creator mode. Like that's the most exciting one. Yeah. And there are exciting bits to that, but I actually think a video, I've always said a video intro. I mean, you can do a video intro in your featured section, but it's a bit further down. The opportunity for someone to go to your profile and then just tap on your profile picture and you talk to them, I think it's great. I think that's a really good feature. So
yeah, that's very good.
That's another one that
I was going to say, you were talking about the support for the content producers. Is there more we should say about that as well? Or
only the rumor that they're talking about monetizing it.
Right.
I think whether that happens or not, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the bottom line is that if you are a content producer, there's a clear focus on you from LinkedIn now. They are looking to do more and more to support. So there'll be more features and more things happening, I guess.
Okay.
The third thing they mention in that article is live. So if anybody uses live, they're changing the way live looks. And there's actually a video demonstration of it. But your profile background now shows in your live broadcast when you start streaming. Again, hard to really, again, the way they describe it, and even with the video showing it, you still find yourself going, I'd really need to see that myself to really fully understand it. But that's another change that they're making to support content producers, that in this particular case, live content producers. So, yeah, they're the three changes that they announced yesterday.
Okay. Well, I've applied for live, I think 3 times now. I still haven't heard back, so
I'll have to really? Yeah. When was the last time you applied?
It was probably 6 weeks ago, maybe a bit more.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, they have said that not everybody will get live, and at some point they are going to draw the line. I don't believe they have drawn that line yet. Have you produced some videos yourself? As in content?
Well, I guess just ones we have, for the recruitment working lunch, for example. I don't know if that counts as or if they're talking more about a video.
Native video, you talking to camera. I think if you do that, I think what happens is they've outsourced the selection or the shortlisting anyway. And their brief is, all right, this person wants to do live, go and have a look at their content. Are they producing videos? Do those videos look any good? So I think it's not much more complicated than, have they got any videos? No. Okay, nothing to judge. That's a no. Have they got videos? Yes, but they sound awful and they look terrible. And so we don't really want that person going live.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it might help you if you do it that way.
Yeah, well, Erica was just making a comment that she's never produced a video and she got in, so, but maybe that was before they outsourced.
Okay. Well, actually, it was harder to get in before they outsourced, so I wouldn't have thought so. But hey, there may have been a time when, in fact, there was a time just before I got in. Actually, I mean, I'm terrible. I've hardly ever used Live, but I got in just
your
before.
Video just disappeared, Mark.
Say again.
I think your video disappeared.
My video's disappeared. That's interesting because I haven't done anything. Yeah, it has gone. I don't know why. Let me just switch that back on. Strange.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything to make that happen, but there you go. It's got a mind of its own.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Looks like I'm the only one that can see you. Everybody else seems to be able to see you, I think. So.
Well, I think it did go, but it's back now. So.
Okay.
To go back to LinkedIn Live, I think there was a spate where I think when they first outsourced, where they let a lot of people in. Maybe they've tightened that up now a little bit. Maybe they got their knuckles wrapped. My video's gone off again. I don't know why it's doing that. Maybe I wonder if it's a bandwidth thing. Can you see me now?
I don't.
No. Hold on. It toggles off my video.
Yeah, I see you now.
I wonder whether if it sees a bit of bandwidth issues. We've had some issues bandwidth wise recently here. It maybe just switches the video off just to protect the sound. Anyway, where were we?
Well, we're both back.
Yeah. So they are changing Live, but again, roll out, and we won't know when that's going to happen. I've certainly not seen any examples of it, but it was only announced yesterday, so I wouldn't expect it to happen anytime soon. So other new things since I was last on, anyway.
Yeah.
In-mail read receipts are coming in from the 15th of April.
Yeah, that should be a good one.
Yeah, and typing indicators. I'm not really sure how. I guess that's kind of can be frustrating. Typing indicators.
Yeah, because you see somebody type, you think, okay, let me engage with them, and then they get distracted, and then next thing you know, you're not talking. It's like, oh, damn it. I'm
just imagining the scenario of a recruiter sort of, sends a message to a candidate they've found for a job, and really interesting opportunity for you, and they see the three dots and they go, fantastic, they're reading it, and the read receipt comes up, great, they've read it, and they start typing back, oh, great, maybe they're interested. And then nothing happens. It's like, what? But yeah, they're coming in because read receipts have obviously been around on LinkedIn messaging for ages, but they always made a point of saying they're not applicable to in-mail or sponsored in-mail. They are now applicable to in-mail, but not sponsored in-mail, apparently. So that's an interesting development. I think that's a good thing. I think that could be useful.
Yeah, because right now you only know when they reply and you get your
yeah.
credit back, but you don't know if they've actually read it. So at least if you know they've read it, that's an indication that, well, if they haven't read it, then it means you might want to try another way to get hold of them, because sending them another email is not going to help if they haven't read the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you were sending out lots of in-mails, to see that people haven't read it will give you a bit of an indication of the effectiveness of banging out loads of in-mails, which I never think is a great idea. But people tend to do that, especially on, Sales Navigator or recruiter accounts, particularly recruiter accounts, when you literally can just go, there's a shortlist, send them all an in-mail. But you are wasting credits a lot of the time when you do that. And yes, you might have 50 credits and you may share that as a team, but you can run out of them. I know people that do. So it might just, make you think a little bit more about, actually, let's just check that person's profile. Are they active on LinkedIn? Because so many people are just not. They are a waste of an in-mail, really. And it might help from that point of view, I guess, as well. So yeah, that's in-mail read receipts. Stories have developed a bit since last time I was on. We were focusing on stories, weren't we?
Yeah.
they've not really taken off in the way that I hope they would. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised because, the LinkedIn community are a little bit old-fashioned. They're not really social media types generally, and so features that are very I wouldn't exactly say cutting edge social media, but kind of very millennial by their nature, like stories, tend not to appeal to the fuddy-duddies of LinkedIn. So maybe that's part of the problem, but they are gradually developing the feature. They have improved the stickers. You still can't search for stickers, but they have improved them a bit. But the biggest improvement they've made is swipe up links. Now this is important because swipe up links do give you opportunities with stories. So for instance, you can do a post, take a screenshot of your post on mobile, and then use that as the image for a story. And then there's a sticker for swipe up, which is one they've recently added. And then use the swipe up link. There's a little link thing at the top of your story, and put the link to that story, right? So you can show them a bit of a, this is what my post is about. If you want to get involved in that post, swipe up, and then that takes them straight through to the post or an article, of course. But thinking about it from a recruitment perspective, of course, this also might be a way of, if you're going to advertise a job on a story, there was nothing interactive about it. So it's just saying, here's a job. And then, of course, someone will have to look you up, go to your profile, go to your activity file, a bit long-winded. Whereas now, of course, you can just put a link to that job as a swipe up, which is much better. I mean, job ads, in posts and stories, I think never do particularly well. But hey, look, if you're using stories and you've got a vacancy, you may as well bang it in there, as long as you're not only doing that because people will just unfollow you if that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if you occasionally promote a role in amongst other interesting content that people are going to find engaging, then I don't see any harm with that. And I think it definitely adds value if you add a swipe up link in there. So
you want to just have a easier call to action, really. So
yeah. I see Stephen's admitted to being in the fuddy-duddy community. Can't abide stories. I quite like stories, actually. I haven't really, if I'm honest, used them as much on LinkedIn. I've used them in terms of posting them, but actually engaging with other people's stories. But it's a design fault with LinkedIn. The problem is that if you're admin of company pages, you don't see the stories. You just don't see them. You just see the option to add a story for all these different companies, which you don't want to do because that's a waste of time. And it stops me seeing content, which is stupid. I have fed that back, and I know a number of people have, and they have made some changes, but not that. So
yeah.
So that's something that's changed on stories, but they are still struggling to really get to grips with it. The algorithm is improving a bit with them, but it's still way behind the normal algorithm. So you're still seeing stories from people that you would never see in your feed, which I guess, looking at that the other way round, that does give an advantage to story and advertising jobs in stories, for instance, because there is an audience there that if you post on LinkedIn, they'll never see it because the algorithm's decided that they're not relevant to you because they've never engaged with your content, or you've never engaged with their content, or both. So you'll never reach them, even though they're a follower. They'll never see your stuff. Whereas with stories, because the algorithm's immature, it hasn't really learned relevance yet properly, there is more of a possibility that somebody out there might see your vacancy or your post, so I guess that's an angle you could think about with that.
Okay.
What else have we got? Muting people.
Muting people.
Right, I love this one. This is one of my favorite new features. This was actually brought in unusually for LinkedIn on request, because a number of people had reported the fact that there's a problem with LinkedIn, which is, let's say somebody out there is putting out content that you absolutely despise, right? And there are people like that I've seen in my feed that I just think, I just don't want to see this. They might be very political or something, and you just don't want to see it, right? The problem is you're not following them. because you're not following them, you can't unfollow them.
Right.
The reason you're seeing it is because someone that you're following has commented or liked it or reacted to it, or maybe even shared it. Now, if they shared it, that might be a reason to actually unfollow that person. But just because they've interacted with it in some way, you might like their content, just not what they're putting on your feed, right? By how they engage with other content. And what mute allows you to do is mute the person that you're not following that's producing the content that you don't want to see. Because previously, the only way of stopping that would be to block them, which is not really what blocking is for. And there's a limit to the number of people you can block.
It's 300 or something, or
yeah, yeah, I think it is. Yeah, something like 300. Yeah. I've got nowhere near that, but you know, of course, the reality is that if you block someone, then they can't see you on LinkedIn at all, right? Because
right.
That works both ways. So it's kind of like it was a blunt instrument to deal with a problem. So a lot of people had requested LinkedIn do something to fix that, and they've come up with this mute facility, which works really well. So all you do is that if you see a post in your feed and you go, I don't want to see that, I don't want to see content from that person, then 3 dots at the top and you'll see the option to mute them, as well as the option to unfollow the person that engaged with that content. You can't do both though. Well, you can, but not in the same post. So for instance,
one at a time.
Well, not even that in a sense, because so if let's say you have liked a post and I don't want to see that content, if I mute it, it disappears.
Okay.
So I have to wait for you to post again to then choose to unfollow you. Now I could go to your profile to unfollow you, but the point is that the 3 dots is now gone, hasn't it? Because I muted it, that person, and that post disappears as a result. So but I like it. I've used it quite a lot, to be honest. And I think anything like that helps you clean your feed is good for engagement. I'm a huge believer that we can't blame the algorithm for the quality of our feed entirely. I think the algorithm is not perfect, don't get me wrong. But part of the reason it's not perfect is it's not working with perfect information because we're not helping it. You can help the algorithm get your feed better by doing 2 things primarily. 1, engage with the stuff you like, right?
Yeah.
So comment more than like, and get stuck into the people and the content that you're interested in. And then the algorithm will give you more of that. And at the same time, mute people and unfollow people of stuff you don't like. And if you do that, then it doesn't take that long actually for the machine to learn what you want. I mean, my feed's not completely clean, but I would say I'd be disappointed and surprised if a quick scroll, there wouldn't be 3 or 4 posts that I genuinely can comment on if I've got time. Whereas most clients that I work with, when I do that exercise with them, you scrolling for literally minutes, which is a long time on social media, before you find anything worth commenting on. So I think we do need to take a bit more responsibility for that.
And help LinkedIn help us, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's just a machine at the end of the day. You just have to feed it with the right information, the right actions. But muting is a good addition to that, I think.
Yeah, Stephen had a good question. Can I block someone from following me? He said it could be useful to prevent rival recruiters seeing my activity.
You can block them. Absolutely. If you block them, then you disappear on LinkedIn as far as they're concerned. And that's everything. So if you comment on something, so let's say there's a client out there that you're looking to develop a relationship with, and they do a post on LinkedIn and you want to comment on that, right? But you don't particularly want your competitors to see that, right? But of course they're following that client as well. But your comment will not appear in that thread as far as they're concerned. They won't see it.
Right, yeah, because you've blocked them.
Blocking works really well and is a useful facility. Obviously, it's specifically not designed for competition. It's specifically designed for harassment and things of that nature, which is obviously a very important feature to have.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a misuse to use it in those circumstances. Obviously, you won't be able to see them So you won't get any competitive advantage that way, of course.
But yeah. I guess you lose that on top of it. So
yeah, it works both ways, and rightly so, it has to.
Sure. I think you were going to talk about also, searching for companies on LinkedIn. They've given you more.
Company searching has improved dramatically, actually, since the last time we spoke. Now, if you have a recruiter account or sales nav account, you'd be used to decent company searching. But on LinkedIn.com, free users had the most hopeless company search.
I think that's one of the reasons I went to sales nav, because it just, and tagging disappeared as well. So
it was absolutely hopeless. I mean, it was just a waste of time. Whereas it's actually really good now. So you can filter company searches by location, industry, and size as defined by number of employees. Okay. And that's number of employees on LinkedIn, which, isn't 100% accurate. It's not far off. So that itself is enough, frankly, for most people. Right? Now, obviously in sales nav, I don't know if you get this in recruiting or not. Maybe someone can comment on that. I've been recruited for years now. But sales nav, you can filter by department headcount, company headcount growth as well. And I've always thought, from a business prospecting point of view in recruitment, that is, also from a candidate prospecting point of view, that headcount growth is a really useful filter. Now, that's not available to free LinkedIn users. That's a sales nav feature, maybe recruiter as well, right? But that is, if you think about it, if you target companies who are showing a negative growth in headcount, that's a good place to headhunt, right?
Yeah.
Conversely, searching and filtering companies by headcount growth, and even specific department headcount growth. So you recruit accountants and you go to the accountancy department and see that the headcount growth in that department. They're really useful features of sales nav. And I don't know whether that's in Recruiter. It may well not be, because I can imagine LinkedIn not joining the dots there and understanding that would be a useful feature for a recruiter. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I don't have Recruiter, so I wouldn't know. But maybe if somebody has a Recruiter, can tell us in the comments.
Yeah. Just coming back on a point that Stephen's made, which is spot on, actually, about stories. Going back to stories for a second. They're just a broadcast format. It's actually right. They are just a broadcast format. And social media should be all about engagement. What I would say is that swipe up obviously means that you can use it as a gateway to a post, which is an engagement forum, or even a group, actually, if you happen to be in a group where anything's going on. But equally, don't underestimate the value of broadcast as well. There is no organic reach, okay? But there is an argument that your followers are people that you would want to be seen by on a regular basis and develop for them to develop a greater understanding of you. And stories do provide you with that, right? But no question about it, they are not a visibility tool. They are about keeping in touch and building relationships, much more, as in, regular presence. I keep seeing you. I'm getting to know you better. I feel more comfortable about wanting to do business with you, that type of thing. Not, I like your stuff and therefore my followers are going to see it, right? That doesn't happen at all. And so he's absolutely right on that front. Yeah.
Any rumors or that you've heard of, maybe things coming up or people talking about?
Okay, so this isn't a rumor, because LinkedIn have actually commented on this. So, and a senior exec as well, or a spokesperson. So if someone from the comms department gets involved, then it's definitely right and true, because there's quite a lot of times that they stop people saying things. So if they say it, then it must be right. Clubhouse or a Clubhouse feature is coming to LinkedIn. They are working on an audio engagement feature. I guess there's no surprise in one sense, because everybody is since Clubhouse came out. Twitter's brought one out, Facebook's working on one, blah blah blah. No surprise, but I think this is potentially really exciting. If you actually spend any time on Clubhouse, and I must admit I did initially, but I just don't seem to have the time to do it these days. But the thing about Clubhouse is that it's too generic. You've just got everything from music to anything, right? And we know that doesn't really work. And certainly for LinkedIn users, you're unlikely to get the fuddy-duddy community of LinkedIn to go on to Clubhouse. I just can't imagine that happening. But if it's business networking conversations, the likes of which used to happen in groups, that are to some degree protected from spam and irrelevance because people are communicating personally. It doesn't stop it. I've seen some rubbish on Clubhouse, but it eliminates it to a degree. I think that there's a lot in that. I think that it's basically like going to a conference and having the opportunity to interact and hear experts speak about things. I think it's potentially very exciting.
And maybe if you can combine it with the hashtags that you talked about earlier, you could say, oh, that's, if that person is on LinkedIn's Clubhouse, then that's a good person to follow because they're relevant to what I'm talking about.
It will be a mobile only feature. I'm certain of that. It'll be a mobile only feature, and it will be, it will probably take, right, don't hold me to this, it'll probably take a year before we see it, will be my guess. LinkedIn are just so slow with new features. Now we know they're very keen on this because they get involved in Clubhouse, and in fact this feature, this that I was talking about before, this content creator feature mode is one that they have talked about apparently early hours of this morning over in the US about on Clubhouse. So they use it as a tool to communicate with people. So we know that they believe in it, they love it, and so I imagine there will be an emphasis to push it through quicker. But I personally, my view on LinkedIn is they're understaffed, and because everybody who's ever dealt with at LinkedIn, is just really poor at getting back to you, and it's not because they're rude, it's because they're massively overworked. So I just don't think they get stuff done quickly, and so I don't think it'll happen overnight, and I think it could be at least 6 months, probably more like a year before we see it. But that's a very exciting, it's not a rumor, but it's a very exciting prospect when that happens, for sure.
I can't believe how quickly the time's gone by. We're almost at the end. Actually, Debbie just posted something that was, I don't know if you've come across this. One of the guests she had on, I think it was last week or the week before, he posted an article about this person in the US, I think she is, recruitment firm, and her account got closed because she's been watching too many profiles, and that's I wonder if that's something gone wrong.
I've seen it. I've seen the post. Someone brought it to my attention. The trust and safety team at LinkedIn are the most unpopular team within LinkedIn as well. I think it frustrates them, but they do have a job to do, and sometimes they get a bit overzealous with it, and they're definitely getting more overzealous over the last 6 months or so. They've got worse and worse, and unfortunately people do become innocent victims, and I really feel sorry for them when it happens to them. Look, if you are a recruiter and you're not using a recruiter account and you view lots of profiles, you are going to be in danger of getting your account banned.
But she was actually using the recruiter account.
No, she can't have been. She can't have been.
That's what the article said that I read.
No, she used to use recruiter. It said she was a recruiter user. Right? It didn't say she definitely currently is. Now, that might be true, but they're not going to ban a recruiter user, right? But someone that used to be a recruiter user and isn't anymore and is viewing lots of profiles, that I can imagine would cause a problem. Whether that's right or wrong, as in morally right or wrong, but it's their tool, isn't it? They can make the choice.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if she is a recruiter user now. But I mean, if she was, then she should be speaking to her account manager at LinkedIn, and you know, that could happen. And as I say, the trust and safety team are pretty unpopular within LinkedIn. That person won't be very happy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think that can happen, and you do need to be careful if you are hitting high numbers, doing anything that might be perceived as action taken by a bot,
Yeah.
or outsourced. You're in danger of getting your account closed down. End of.
Well, Mark, thank you again for coming on. It's been great to have you on. We don't have a show next week because it's because of the Easter break. But the week after, Steven's got Matchkin Meshling. I hope I got the name right there. And it's how the Miss America show has driven career equality for women over 100 years. So that should be quite interesting. I remember when Steven got invited to, I think, talk to the Miss America show. So it should be a very interesting conversation. And yeah, so anyway, I guess it's time to go out and enjoy that sunshine while you can before things change. And we'll see you in 2 weeks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.
Cheers.